My guests today are Josie, Ben, and Chris. Today we have a really special episode, not only because Josie's my wife, but she's also the creator of CyberBrokers, which is a series of 10,001 fully on-chain art collectibles. CyberBrokers serve as the foundation for an ecosystem that is going to be part story, part game, and part experience. It's incredible to hear the team's story, not only as they're all OGs, but they have created this elaborate backstory that explains the lore of the CyberBroker universe that really brings the project to life. It's also really exciting to see how they're pushing the technical boundaries of NFTs by putting assets with exceptionally high levels of detail on-chain. It's always amazing speaking to teams of this caliber, and I look forward to watching what they build going forward. Also, Josie wanted me to remind you all that tomorrow is the last day to sign up for the CyberBroker Allow List. Tomorrow is February 18th, and the Allow List will close at midnight. Please enjoy my conversation with Josie, Ben, and Chris. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to chat with you all. And this is actually my second video pod. First one I did with Josie, and we crushed it. So super excited to have all you guys on board. And to kick us off, I'd love to learn more about you guys' backgrounds. Josie, if you want to start, tell us all about your background.
Sure. So I was saying, we actually recorded this one other time before, and my audio was crap. But I was saying that Andrew and Ben were both sort of a part of my story of finding where I am now in the crypto space. And I first heard about Bitcoin when I was in college. I was a junior, and I wrote an extra credit essay on Bitcoin when we had a speaker come to our college to talk about it. It was super interesting because one of the questions he asked was, has anyone here purchased Bitcoin? And 3 students raised their hand, and they were all international students from China. And I was like, first of all, the whole concept blew my mind. And then once I saw them raise their hand, I was like, I'm totally missing out on something. So as the college student I was, very focused, I tried for like 10 minutes to buy Bitcoin. Didn't work, and I totally dropped it and forgot about it for a while. And then leaving school, I studied finance, so I was working in private wealth management. And it was a really interesting career that I learned a lot about myself and the world in, because I was trained and licensed to sell stocks for high net worth clients. So I learned a lot about just how the traditional financial system worked. But it was really interesting because even though I had my certifications to buy and sell for other people, there were a lot of things that I couldn't buy into myself because I wasn't an accredited investor. So that was super interesting to me. And I realized that everyone that I was working for made their wealth while they slept. They had their money working for them. And it was a concept that I just didn't know about before or really didn't think about. So when I discovered crypto again, which was actually in large part by Andrew, when we met, some of the first things, it was funny. He was like, have you heard of Ethereum? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know a lot about it. Is it sort of like Bitcoin? And he started sending me a ton of articles, and I started investing in it in 2017. And sorry, the cat wants me to play fetch with her. And I started investing in 2017, and we really just dove into it together. We started going to meetups, at every meetup we could in Chicago. Started trying to find conferences and everything we could go to. And really, I started to fall in love with the community and the ethos behind Bitcoin. And I decided that I wanted to work in crypto and the blockchain space. So I quit my job, and I started serving again at night at a restaurant here in Chicago. And during the day, I took a coding boot camp at Northwestern. And I learned from the coding boot camp that I hated coding. And I've totally forgotten everything I learned because I hated it so much. But I also learned that I wanted to get back into art and design. It was super exciting to me, and I loved doing it. And I've realized that that was going to be my way into working in the crypto and blockchain space. So I started doing design for different Chicago companies, logos, websites, and then that expanded to companies in San Francisco and New York and all these different places. And it was really fun to do. And then I guess around that time, at the end of 2017, I was talking to Andrew, and it was funny. I don't remember exactly how it came up. I think he had seen, one of my friends had texted me a picture of some of my old artwork that I made her a while ago and she had hanging on her walls. And he was like, she said something about my art, and he was like, wait, you do art? Like actual like painting and stuff? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, no way. Like, I don't believe you did that. And I was like, no, I did. And he was like, that's crazy. Like, you have to make something, like do something for us, like all the stuff. And then I was like, okay. And so I decided that I wanted to make a piece of crypto art, which now I like know that that was a genre. At the time, I didn't. So at the end of 2017, I made Genesis, which was my first piece of crypto art. And it was really crazy and exciting to make because it represented, you know, my whole journey so far in the space and like how important it was to me and how much it really, like, honestly, even at that point was changing my life. But anyways, I continued to create more and more art, and I was also still doing graphic design for companies, and I linked up with a conference that was being put on in Chicago in August of 2018. I did everything for them: banners, websites, social media, all of the visuals. And then I ended up showcasing my artwork at the conference called Voice of Blockchain. And that is where I met Marguerite, coin artist, who is a total badass. And I like had looked up to her. I was like fangirling. I met her and I was like, oh my gosh, I love your work. And like her sort of booth setup was right behind, like we were back to back. And I purposely did that because I helped plan the conference. So I was like, I want to be next to her. And I met her, and I met some of the crew from Neon District, and she had like, cause it was just starting, or pretty close to, and she had the art up, in this booth, and it was just so cool. Anyways, she was looking at my art and she was like, whoa, you are awesome. Like, I'm doing this show with Pascal in Paris in October of 2018. And she was like, do you want to come? And I was like, hell yeah. So we went to Paris in October of 2018. And that's also when I met Ben in Paris. And it was just such a cool experience. And like, I honestly remember like both of those things like yesterday. But that was sort of a long-winded version of how I got to the beginning of my crypto art journey. And then obviously since then, I've been full-time working in crypto since the end of 2017.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, Ben, tell us all about your background.
Awesome. No, I distinctly remember meeting both of you in Paris. So I knew that you guys were an item for quite some time. And it never occurred to me that other people did not know, because I had already known both of you for years. So that's an awesome story. I don't know if I can tell mine nearly as well. I really found crypto in like late 2015. I had just gotten my computer science PhD, and I had a whole bunch of Raspberry Pis lying around for some reason. I forget exactly why. And my wife, my girlfriend at the time, Rachel, said, why don't you try to mine Bitcoin? We had no idea. So I'm like, all right, I'll look into it. And obviously that did not work at all. But that opened my mind to cryptocurrency. So I'd always had a fascination with making a startup and like having the entrepreneurial spirit. So I came up with the idea to start a Web 2, shop online. It's not OpenSea. It was for physical goods. It was not, there were like downloads and stuff, but there was no such thing as an NFT back then. So I made this shop, and I got into an accelerator in my hometown in State College, which was where I was also going to school at Penn State, and tried to run with the startup for a while until I wasn't good enough at it. I built the thing, and then I tried to sell it, and people were like, what the hell is Bitcoin? Or why would I want to accept this, for the things that I sell? It didn't work at all. So then I fell into another startup. I was going through my program, and then in 2017, I did not know what crypto Twitter was at this point, but I was following, Satoshi Light, Charlie Lee, the founder of Litecoin, and I saw that he had put out a puzzle in May of 2017, and it was a Litecoin SegWit puzzle to celebrate the fact that Litecoin was going to adopt the SegWit protocol, which, if anyone remembers I think it was the New York Agreement back then. There was a whole think about the block size and accepting SegWit, and that's how we got Bitcoin Cash and all these other spinoffs. But the puzzle came out, and it was I don't know if Andrew, if you can like show a graphic or something, but you could probably show it's like this. It was like a circular series of dots and an L with a bunch of graphs and nodes and edges and stuff. But the puzzle was encoded in a certain way, and I think there were hundreds of people trying to solve this thing. I got really lucky. I was in a group of people who didn't sleep as much as I did, so we spent 2 weeks working on it, and we got really lucky. I was the only coder, so I was, of course, trying to write all the code for everything and solve the damn thing. And I was losing so much sleep. I was disheveled, like, there were papers all on my walls and everything. We were fortunate enough to crack it. So I remember distinctly, like, running the program and being like, if this doesn't do it, I'm done. I have to get back to, like, doing grad school stuff. And I went and I took a shower, and I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep at best. And I come back, and it just shows me the private key on the terminal, and I'm like, what? So I drop it into the LTC wallet, the Electron, whatever it was, and it was like, holy shit. That was like the first holy shit moment I ever had in crypto, was seeing a wallet open up with like 230 Litecoin. It was like $20 a pop at the time, and it blew my mind that you could go through the whole process and discover a private key, and it opened a door, a really big one. It was from there that I had, oh, by the way, the creator of that Zima also did that picture up there that I have, that I will be hanging up in this room instead of just resting on my bookshelf. And that's how I eventually, through word of mouth, found out about coin artist, Marguerite, and how she had made all these puzzles. So I started following the whole scene and got really into the crypto puzzle scene, like obsessively into it, printed out every puzzle and would follow everything. And I had the one flame and six, the Phoenix and the Turtle Dove puzzle. That I had like 20 different printouts of that with like different drawings and writings. I'm like, how could this puzzle be encoded? It wasn't solved yet at the time, and I was obsessed with trying to solve it. But then I had to stop because in October of 2017, Margaret made a mention during a different puzzle. If anybody is interested in working on this Decred project, let me know. So I was a little interested because I needed money. I was poor. I was a grad student. I had like nothing, I had a little bit of Litecoin. That's it. I should say a little bit of Litecoin because he split up the prize among 6 of us. So, and then that was when we started working together. We did a Decred wallet explorer, kind of one of the only ones that they had, and we were trying to find out who held how much because Decred also has a staking protocol where you can vote. I think I might have mixed that up a little bit, but you could vote basically on things. It's like an early version of a DAO. And people wanted to know how much influence that you had. So we worked on that for a little bit and then shipped that, and that was it. And I thought, that's it. It's done. And I was still doing another startup, and it was December of 2017. I'm like, I can't do the startup anymore. Like, I've been crunching this. We didn't ship anything. We kept building, and nothing happened. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done. It was like Christmas morning. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm done with the startup life. I'm going to finish my PhD. Like I was determined. I was ready. That was my epiphany. And then I get a Twitter DM 2 days later from Coin Artist. And it's a group DM with a whole bunch of people, including Diego Rodriguez, who was our lead artist. And she's like, hey, you want to do the cyberpunk role-playing game? Like, just for fun. It'll take a few months, tops. We'll be done. Just ship it and be done. This was right after CryptoKitties, so it was like a whole thing. People found out that you could make games where, like NFTs were like, okay, yeah, this is a tool. This is what we can use to make the games that we wanted to make. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll do it. Why not? Fast forward, dropped out of grad school 5 months later. My advisor, if he ever wants to talk to me again. I'm sorry. Um, and then it was shortly after that. I know, Chris, you're going to tell your story about how you met Marguerite, but it was like right around the same time I met Josie and Andrew, and that was the first blockchain game conference in late 2018. And then you came on the project, and everything came together.
Ben, amazing. That is an incredible background. I love how like coin artist seems to be this connective tissue between all of us. But all right, Chris, the man, the myth, the legend. Let's hear it. Tell me about your background.
Um, yeah, so I'm the old one in the group. My background starts way back. Like I was always making games when I was a kid. I started making games on a Commodore 64, actually, back in the day. Um, I even won an award at the end of the year in my junior high, right? Like for computer graphics. And that basically, like that right there, that moment actually put me on my path. I was like, oh, I want to do something with computers and art. That's gonna be awesome. That's where I want to go. And you fast forward through a little bit of school, and I was in college, and I'm just like, man, because I went to school for I majored in computer science with a minor in fine art. So you can imagine none of my classes crossed over. Like everybody's just like, oh, and with a CS degree, you need to take math as your, no, like nothing. I'm in these 3 hour long, like, figure drawing classes and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, my brain just turned to mush in my afternoon programming classes after that. Anyway, you get like 3 semesters in, and I'm like, man, school sucks. I'm out of here. And then I started bartending around the country, right? Because that's how I was paying for school. So I was just bartending on nights and weekends and stuff. And so I packed a bag and threw it in the back of my friend's Honda CRX, if you remember, like those old, like they're like this big, and started wandering the country. Um, I ended up in the Sawtooth Mountains in Idaho, and um, I was talking to a guy who was starting like my boss's girlfriend's boyfriend was starting an interactive agency. This is the mid '90s, right? Nobody really knew what the web was, any of that stuff. And and so I went down to Boise, and we started a company that was an interactive ad agency, right? And we grew it into this big thing and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And then I got tired of building the same thing over and over because every client comes in and it's like, oh, we want a cool interactive website, and here's our thing, and here's our marketing plan, and here's our like deliverables and all this collateral. Like I was building all this stuff, but it'd be like the same thing. It's just you're doing it for potatoes one week and you're doing it for Batman the next week, right? But fundamentally, I'm building the same stuff. So I was like, this sucks. You'll notice like a theme. Like I go to school, this sucks. I bartending. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. This sucks. I want to build like this is just like this sucks over and over again. Um, and I'm like, this sucks. I want to go build something and own it, right? And so I jump into enterprise and I do like super nerdy database like level development stuff. And I was like, man, this sucks. This is boring. And so on the side, I start making like web-based MMO games because I'm a web guy, and I had I discovered Travian. If you know what Travian is, it's basically like the precursor of Clash of Clans, but just on web stuff. And my friends and I are playing it. It's amazing. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna do a Travian game, but it's gonna be an RPG, and it's gonna be an MMO and all this cool stuff. And one of my beta testers was Raf Koster at the time, because this is like in 2005, something like that. 2007. Like Raf started his thing in 2007. Anyway, so Raf is just like, oh, hey, this is cool, blah blah blah. But I'm doing this other gig down in San Diego, where we're building a platform, an MMO creation platform thing. And I was like, oh, that sounds sweet. Like, this enterprise stuff sucks. Let's go do that. And and so I started. We started there. We built a big cool thing, and it was we were democratizing UGC virtual worlds. Like it was super. Like, yeah, we got a mission. Woo! Um, but like any UGC platform, like you see with YouTube or all these things, the the stuff that people make starts out as garbage, right? Like it takes a while. Roblox, like all of these things where it's user generated content. Um, your average user makes terrible content, basically. And so, we were on this slow ramp. But it was a startup, so we didn't have a giant runway. And then, Disney kind of like hovered over. Long story short, Disney comes in and he's like, "Hey, we like your tech, romp," and they yoinked us. So then I got sucked into Disney, um, and I did lots of stuff there with like Club Penguin, Disney Infinity, lots of stuff that just went right in the garbage can. Man, it makes me so sad that we build these amazing things and they don't get traction or there's like little hitches or something and we just have to can it all. It's so terrible. Um, anyway, then I was working on at the time, this is 2017, I was working on some animatronic stuff for then it was new, Star Wars ride that is at Disneyland. And I was working on like, they put like little iPads on the wall behind the rides that the maintenance guys can come in and like beep, 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 beep. And it, puts the big robots into T pose so they can get in there and like turn the screws and stuff. Um, so I was building like all this like back end stuff for that. And um, that's when I discovered Decentraland, right? Because I I created a Bitcoin wallet way back in like 2011, but back then it wasn't easy to buy. Like Josie was saying, right? It was really hard to buy, and I'm like, this is dumb. I'm not gonna worry about it. And then like in 2014, I looked at it again. I'm like, it hasn't gotten any easier. All right, never mind. And then Mount Gox happens, and you're just like, okay, well, dodged a bullet. Like throughout the whole thing, all of this is like, meh. And finally, in the summer of 2017, right, crypto's going crazy, and well, crazy. Um, and I was like, all right, I need to actually buckle down and get into this. And so, in my little head, I made a little mental checklist. These are the things that I'm good at, virtual worlds, right? And I'm like, I'm only gonna invest or look at stuff that makes sense to me, right? And so I ended up in a couple little things like wax. I was in wax in the early days, um, but it was the Decentraland stuff that drew me in. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So I participated in the land sale and all this other stuff. Um, and I was in the Discord with them, and I'm like, oh, because literally what I just got done the last like 10 years of my life was building UGC virtual world platforms, like where people can make their own virtual world MMO stuff. And so you can imagine there's a lot of like overlap with what Decentraland's mission was. And so I'm there like, oh, you should do this. You probably don't want to do this. And here's a thing and whatever. And Ari and Esteban are just like, dude, he sounds smart. You should come work for us. I was like, oh, no, 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 man, I'm good. I got this sweet gig over here building robots for Disney. Like, I'm good. Um, and and damn it, they kept going. And they're like, just come down and visit. Come check us out in Argentina. And I go down to Buenos Aires. And like, if you've ever been to Buenos Aires, it's amazing. Like, it's this beautiful place. I'm like, shit. All right, I'm gonna do it. And so I totally ejected from Disney. And everybody thought I was crazy because, like, oh, you're gonna go get paid in Bitcoin, right? I mean, it was like, come to find out, yay. Um, but at the time, everybody thought I was insane. Uh, and so I started, we did Decentraland stuff, and then we like the guys wanted to take it in this direction, and I'm like, no, I want to go this direction, and so we decided to just kind of part ways on that, which is totally cool. And then I started hanging out with Ben and Marguerite, right? Well, I met Marguerite at the Nifty conference that he was talking about, and you guys were there, but I didn't meet you guys because Decentraland put that conference on, right? Like I was part of organizing all of that, um, and that was I had a game design panel there that I did, and Marguerite was one of my speakers. That panel was crazy. So, another tangent story. The night before I'm meeting with my panelists, and this is about game design. And back in whatever that was, 2018, there weren't a lot of game design people in crypto, right? I mean, I guess there still aren't. Um, and so um, I had like one of the one of the people had to drop out or something, and I'm looking at the resumes of the folks, and they're like economic designers, and it wasn't really like a game designer person. And so I was, there was Marguerite, and then some folks who were building games, but not necessarily in the design part of making the games. So I'm like, so I'm basically feeding them here. These are the questions you're going to ask. These are the questions you're going to ask. And then I went to my friend Gabby Dizon, you guys know him, and so I went to Gabby, and I was just like, dude, I need I need a designer. And he's like, oh, how about Luna? And he pushes Luna forward, and poor Luna is just like, wait, what? What am I doing tomorrow? What? Like she was totally unprepared to be on any panel or anything. And so Luna came on, and so then we ended up having this like amazing panel where we like designed a blockchain game, whose line in it is it style, right? Like where we just took ideas from the audience. And we're just like, all right, what are we gonna make? And we ended up making like a crazy dumpling throwing like tower defense game or something, like right there on the spot during the thing. It was super fun. Um, and so because we had all that fun, I was like, oh, Marguerite and I like hit it off and moved over and started hanging out with Ben and the guys at Blockade, and we did plasma bears and all the Neon District stuff and all that. And then the downturn happens, and I'm like, and then I moved over to Sandbox because startups are hard. And so I was helping the Sandbox guys do their multiplayer backend stuff, because they are long-term game devs, long-time game devs since like 2011 or something. Like so, the team is great, but they didn't have a lot of experience doing MMO stuff, and so I kind of wrote their back end for all the matchmaking services and sort of that stuff. And then I got them to right before launch, and I was like, okay, guys, I've got to go because I need to go make some stuff. and that's when I jumped ship because Alex Silly Tuna was poking me. He's like, dude, I need you, because he wanted to make this Soulcast thing. And so then I started doing Soulcast, and we were brainstorming the thing, and like, oh, what if we did this sploot thing with this? Because he's a football guy, European football, soccer guy. And so we did this sports sploot thing, and like, I am just like, my cup runneth over with all these awesome things that I'm having to build. And I just like, I didn't have time for Sandbox, and they were launching. And so I'm like, you guys got this, because their whole team is awesome. They're fine. Anyway, in the middle of all of this, so I'm in this flux of trying to figure out like which projects I want to work with. Ben pokes me. He's like, hey, do you want to come play with CyberBrokers? I was just like, what? Right? Because I've been a big Josie fan forever. Like I've been fangirling all over. And like I bought a tune-in. I have number 19. That's mine. And so just this opportunity, I was just like, yes, okay, it doesn't matter. Like anything else, I'll just put it to the side. I got this. Like I will come be your dungeon master. It totally works. And then here we are. Like I'm on the team, and I'm excited about it.
Amazing. I mean, such incredible backgrounds from every one of you. I feel like you guys are all just mega OGs, and I feel like the person who kind of is like the connective tissue again is like CoinArs, which is so cool.
Right.
I didn't really realize that until right now. So
Yep.
that is so sweet. So okay, so you guys are now working on a project called CyberBrokers, and could you tell me what is CyberBrokers, and also what inspired you guys to kind of come together to work on this?
Also, I do want to, I can jump in there, but I do want to say that, Chris, I played Club Penguin, so that was not a throw in the trash game.
No,
I don't know how old I was, but yeah.
Do you remember Do you remember the game Karjitsu Snow? It was like
I don't remember a lot of them.
Battle game on a grid, a multiplayer like PvP battle game on a grid.
To be honest, I have a terrible memory, but I know I played the game, and I know I played a lot of games in there, so I'm sure I played that one. Did you build that one?
Yeah, that was probably the one that I had the most impact on. Like we did a bunch of other stuff, but like lots of that was tinkering already existing things.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
But yes, I played that and Neopets were like the two big ones I played.
Pets was so cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. Anyways, back to CyberBrokers. CyberBrokers, it's interesting how much it's evolved, that's for sure, because it was sort of like a long timeline of when I guess I initially had the idea and then how we've executed it. So I don't remember the exact month or time. Ben might know more because I reached out to him pretty early on. But really, the only, I guess now what everyone's calling PFP that was out at the time was CryptoPunks. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys think of any. I was like, okay, I want to make 10,001 like crypto art collectibles. Like, let's do this. And when I needed that tech component, the first people I thought of were Rhea and Ben. I was like, you guys, can you help me do this? And we had already worked on some stuff together for the puzzle that we did for yours truly, that we did with Neon District, and Ben and Rhea were a huge part of that puzzle, and organizing and coding everything. So it was just the perfect thing that I had worked with them before. And anyways, we just started I was showing them different art ideas and what we were going to do in that realm. And then they started thinking of the different like tech aspect and how to do it. But honestly, I'm really glad it was my end that took so long. I had a baby at some point in that period, which slowed me down a lot. Just being an artist, I wasn't like super fast with everything. I was sort of like going in these creative waves and taking breaks, that's for sure, and doing other things. But honestly, I'm really glad that in some ways that it has taken this time, because over this time, my ideas and my opinions and thoughts on a lot of things in the space have changed a lot. Even, and we'll talk about it too, but even with like IP rights and everything like that. Like before, coming from an artist perspective, I was like, I don't want people who own my art to like do whatever they want with it. Like that's my creation. Like they shouldn't be able to do that. And a lot of my opinions have changed around that, especially like just as the space has evolved and seeing what people can do when they actually like fully own their NFT. So anyways, all that to say that the process was a long time, but it was totally worth it because I'm so freaking excited where we are at now with CyberBrokers. There's 10,001 NFTs inspired by crypto art. They're not all crypto related, but inspired by crypto art, inspired by the metaverse, inspired by the whole NFT space and what we're doing. And the really, honestly, like really exciting thing besides the art is that it's all on chain, and we'll go into that, but the SVGs are all completely stored on Ethereum. And this is like the most intense art that I know of that's ever been stored on Ethereum like this. And then we also have this whole insane, crazy sort of world and universe that we're building with Chris, that just expands it so much more from just the visual art. So that's sort of the long-winded answer of what CyberBrokers is, and I'm sure we'll dive deeper into that too.
Awesome. All right. So Ben and Chris, like, what inspired you guys? Are busy guys. So what inspired you to work on this project? Because you guys got the world is your oyster, right? And so you're like, all right, Josie's making this project. I want to devote some time to this. Like, explain that process.
I'm sure like Ben's gonna say the exact same. Like when Josie says, "Do you want to collaborate?" We're just like, "Yes." Like, how do you say no to that? That's just been crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, exact same answer. I mean, Josie's like, hey, you want to work on this NFT project together? I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to say no to that, like at all. Um, I did go back. I just went and I checked. You reached out in, I think, May of 2020. So this was a very interesting time because, Blockade was in a really rough spot. I didn't know where my money was coming from. I was actually working on another project with Sam Rad, Samantha Radokia for a little bit. And then I was also simultaneously working on a project with Chris and Silly Tuna called
Oh
Metaboss, the
yeah,
ill-fated Metaboss. Um, so
before its time.
I know, way before its time. Oh God, we could have just waited 1 year. That's it, and it would have been perfect. Um, Nobody knows what we're talking about, just the four of us. So, but yeah, Cyberbrokers, Josie came up with the idea. She shared it. We saw a lot of the early art. I think Josie reached out to me first, and I immediately pulled in Raya because I knew there was no way I didn't want Raya involved. Um, the three of us had come up with a lot of ideas, like how do we want to handle the tech. There were some fundamental questions that we had posed back then that were very existential, not in a bad way, but like what is the purpose and longevity of the project? Because, at this time, NFTs did not explode yet. People still didn't know what they were. And we wanted something very, very special, more than just it being, amazing art. We wanted something that was permanent and forever because I was starting to work through this theory at the time. Okay, maybe this helps to explain why I've been thinking about this. We made a game called Plasma Bears, which I'm sure some people have heard of. Chris and I did a lot of the work there. It was a lot of fun. It was a great blockade project, and it ran on a Loom sidechain. Um,
Loom.
when, yeah, 2 months prior, in March, like the same week that COVID hit and everything went to shit, I get a DM from the Loom team saying, "Hey, we're shutting everything down. Just so you know, you have to move your contracts off." I'm like, "What? How much time are you giving us for this? 1 day?" So, they blocked me on Twitter for reasons I will not understand. But yeah, so the Loom team, just made their choice, and I realized that the things that we took for granted as being permanent were not. And, for a lot of people, when you think back of the early internet, the early memes and everything, if you try to go and search for like your favorite videos, your favorite Flash games, for example, a lot of them are gone. GeoCities websites, a lot of those are gone. A lot of the things that you remember as a kid or, in the very early days just don't exist anymore. And that really struck a chord with me at this particular point in time. So we talked a lot about what we wanted in terms of provenance and longevity and permanence for the Cyberbrokers project, and it could have gone in any number of ways artistically, but we chose through a series of questions that we asked ourselves, um, what is the sort of mark that we want to leave on the world for the end of time? Again, we're asking very existential questions, like this is right after COVID, like we don't know what's going on, everything is weird. Um, So we realized, like, if there's a way we can do it, let's put the whole thing on chain and let's make it permanent because when the internet itself is not permanent, to the best of our knowledge, Bitcoin and Ethereum, assuming Ethereum stayed strong and kept growing and stayed decentralized, would be a permanent fixture of the internet and the world, and very few things are permanent. So we chose that we wanted to put things on chain to leverage their permanence. That may have been a very expensive decision in hindsight.
Okay, all right. So basically, to sum it up, cyber brokers are a series of 10,001 crypto art collectible assets, and what we commonly call like a PFP today. And the kind of what's really exciting about them is that they are fully on chain, which we'll dive more into that. But I want to ask you some questions on the tech about that later. I don't know what you can reveal, but I want to learn more about that. But can you kind of explain to me like what is a cyber broker? Like why that name? Like what are they?
The name it started with something around we wanted them to be able to facilitate transaction, like being brokers, right? In the metaverse. And and so we took that theme and basically wrapped this big cool narrative around it. Um, right? And so the 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 way we went, um, is sort of like the cataclysmic, terrible thing that happens to the world, right? So climate change just destroys everything and it turns into the next ice age, effectively. Like the North Atlantic current stops and all this. So this big ice age covers everything. All these people die. Everybody everywhere is just like they move. Humanity moves underground, and existence is terrible because everybody lives in caves, right? So the government hooked these first 10,000 people up to this rig, and to kind of like get them into the brain and get them into the metaverse, into this like virtual world thing. And something went wrong. And so all of these poor people are now in like this cryogenic stasis inside of a military compound somewhere. And they're locked in cyberspace forever. These are the cyberbrokers. And they basically were waiting for the world to catch up, the technology of the world to catch up so that we can fix them and reverse engineer them. And if this, like the cataclysm happened like in 2040 something, 2050 something, and then like 200 years later basically is where our story starts. And so we've had these cyber wandering around, and they're in the metaverse 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can't, like, they're effectively immortal because they're in this hyperbolic cryogenic magic chamber thing. But regular people who are now, a couple of generations removed from this thing, and everybody's just used to living underground in tunnels and whatever. And so they have this dreary, drab, terrible life, and they go back to their little hovel, and they log into the now perfectly working TPL rigs, and they get in there, and we have the metaverse, right? Like, so inside the metaverse, it's all bright and neon and color and all this like joy and action and fun and crazy. And the real world is this terrible, drab, cold existence, right? So we're playing with that dichotomy in the story level. But the cyberbrokers they're basically like celebrities in here because there's only 10,000 of them, and they're in there constantly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Regular humans can only like withstand a few hours a day kind of thing, so they can't be logged in nonstop. And so it's basically about these guys sort of brokering all of these the way the world works, right? Because if people are logging in and out, they're not existing all like, and so these guys are the permanence of that, and so they're the ones taking care of sort of all of the happenings. And we've got different tiers, and we've got these things called talents. So all these cyberbrokers are good at different things. There's a whole bunch of lore that we'll end up releasing that comes along with all of this. And we're exposing it all through a series of short stories. Well, it's like a big story, but a series of chapters as we kind of like reveal how the world works, and we build a few characters, and we kind of just explore a lot of the different talents and jobs, like the way the metaverse works, right?
Amazing. All right, so that's kind of on the lore side of things. Josie, could you tell me more about the art, and not like the on-chain aspect, but just actually the artwork itself?
Yeah, it's definitely has some cyberpunk inspirations. It sort of did from the beginning. The art has evolved a lot since we started initially, but definitely has some cyberpunk inspirations inspired by fashion and sort of like futuristic fashion. We have crypto inspirations like all over the place in there. And also pull some things from like crypto art pieces that I did directly. We pulled some things directly into the collection. And it's sort of, we have some like specialty characters too, that we definitely like. The graphics themselves are really fun. I don't want to give away too many of them, but like you guys have seen The Politician. And that one is kind of fun and pulled directly from the art as well. So we sort of pull from a lot of these different directions, but overall to create something that, sort of looks like cyberpunk and futuristic, but has different inspirations. And also, we're working with who now I've become friends with, but a while ago, I don't know exactly when, I reached out to an artist that I've always loved his work, Azamat, and I reached out to him on Instagram, and I was like telling him about the project, telling him about, he had no idea what like NFTs or crypto was, and so I was like, you first of all just need to get in NFTs. I would love to see your art here, and I would love for you to collaborate with me on CyberBrokers. And he was super excited about it, and he said yes. So we collaborated on all of CyberBrokers so that they could, have the same look and feel. And I'm just so happy with where the art evolved to. But yeah, that's sort of, I guess, the inspiration of CyberBrokers.
And then building off that, you mentioned that they're like SVGs, which I'm not, I don't, is like a file type. I'm not really sure what that is, but I think going from Josie, if you can explain what that is, but then also that'll probably lead into what Ben wants to talk about, which is kind of how he actually put this stuff on chain. And I think it has to be an SVG. But anyways, like, tell me what's an SVG? Why did you decide to do that? And then Ben, like, how did you put this stuff on chain?
So really, I mean, I've always known, so it's funny because I don't know the tech side of SVGs at all. Like, I know it just from like the design side. Like, I was like, oh, you make logos and like and assets in SVGs so you can blow them up any size you want. And so they're not pixelated. So literally, I mean, you're just drawing points, like vertex points, and like connecting everything together. There's way more technical stuff to it that I have no idea because I'm coming from it from just the design aspect. But also when we were initially talking about using SVGs, of course we had to do that to be able to store it all on chain. And then also and I should have mentioned this earlier, but another big inspiration to even do CyberBrokers was that initially I was going to do the art for Avastars. And I was talking with Jim, and I was going to do the art for a while. And then life got super hectic, and I was doing too many things at once. And I felt bad because I felt like I was holding up the project. So I was like, you need to find an artist who can like rock with you in a way faster way I can. But obviously they also use SVGs and they also store on chain. So that was definitely something that I had already known going into it we needed to do as well. But yeah, I can let Ben tell you the more like technical side of SVGs.
So just to add a note to that, you technically can store other things than SVGs on chain, but in order to do anything dynamic, like with an SVG, you can, so what an SVG is it just, I can't really ask a question. This is a podcast, so I can't like ask the audience, like, do you know what HTML looks like? But I think everyone has a pretty rough idea of like what a text file looks like. And, you have different paragraphs and stuff. And the way that the cyberbroker is broken up is layer by layer. And the further down in the file you go, the more to the front it shows up. So what you can do with an SVG that you can't really do with like a bitmap or a ping or a JPEG or something is the ability to swap out those layers. So a really big part of CyberBrokers is that there's a base character for most of these, and on top of that character is everything they wear. So with Avastars, for example, all the traits and everything, the background, like all of that, those are all SVG layers. They're all stored independently and they're all compiled together in the end. And that's effectively how CyberBrokers works. There are, I think, 30, 40 different layers, I believe. Some of them are front and back. Some of them are, I don't know if I should be giving anything away. But there's a lot of really cool, complex interweaving of layers, and a lot of other fun things you can do with SVGs. Like you can change the colors around very, very simply, very cheaply. So an SVG file is perfect to store on chain. Now the difference is that the level of detail in a cyberbroker is extremely high, and I think the most I don't think there's a file size limit per se to how much you can store in memory on chain, but there's a massive cost to doing so. And part of how we're storing them on chain is by not storing them directly in the memory of a contract. We're storing them in lieu of a contract. So this is a technique that I'm not sure who invented it or who discovered it, but it's a mechanic that I've taken from the Evergotchi team. I think Nick Mudge might have come up with it, to the best of my knowledge. And what it allows you to do is more efficiently store data in in basically a false contract. So it looks like a contract, it is stored like a contract. It cannot run like a contract, but it is not actually usable, runnable code. But you can still access that memory, and you can still pull in everything. And that's where we're storing the SVGs. But that's only a small part of it. Again, the SVGs are very, very large as they're stored. So we actually have several layers of compression that go into how we're storing them all on chain. The first thing we do is we catalog all the IDs, and I might be getting a little too technical here. And we will be sharing a lot of, maybe everything as to how we made this happen. But effectively, we're running through all the SVGs, and we're compressing the data where we can. And then we have a compressor that actually translates the entire SVG into the most minimal format that I could think of. So it's basically, it translates from an SVG language to a byte code that is stored on chain, and that compresses it down about, it compresses it to about maybe 20% of the original file size when you get everything together. So we're talking about like 1/5 of the original file. So that's another massive compression. And then on chain, in order to allow people to be able to read it permanently forever, we have to then write the translator. The translator itself cannot be off chain. It has to be stored in a way. So we're going to store a JavaScript translator on chain, so people can pull that, and they'll always have access to being able to pull the raw data and then run it. But we also have a decompressor that is purely written in Solidity, and it's not very efficient. You have to run it with like a cursor, and you have to keep pulling the data in, making a ton of calls, but it works. And you can basically, no matter whenever you ever wanted to pull the original image, you can do so. And the really fun part is because all the layers are stored independently, people will be able to kind of like riff and make their own cyberbroker in a way where they can mix the layers as they see fit, or mix the colors as they see fit. There's a lot of really fun things that can come out of this, but that's the deep dive into how the compressor and all the data is stored on chain.
Okay, so that's awesome. Most of it was over my small brain, but so like, could you explain why putting stuff on chain is expensive?
Yeah. Have you ever used Ethereum?
Yes.
Everything is so expensive. One of the most expensive things you can do. So the compiler. Every single operation they can run on chain has a certain cost associated with it, and that's how you get your gas cost estimate, right? So an F-store operation is one of the most expensive that you can do. They simply do not want you to store data on chain, but they also can't make it prohibitively expensive for people to deploy contracts either. So that's how you kind of get this little loophole where you can basically make it look like you're deploying a contract, but you're actually storing raw data that you can then still access and read. So the expense in storing anything on chain is just really high, no matter what you do. And what we're trying to do is not just try to make that cost as minimal as possible, but under the theory that Ethereum itself does live forever, we don't want to bloat the chain. And we know that by doing what we're doing, we are opening a Pandora's box. And, it's extremely expensive to do what we do. I don't think there's going to be, many copycats doing what we do. But there's a possibility that the thing that we do is going to lead to a lot of people trying to do the exact same thing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things develop from this point forward.
That's awesome. That's super exciting. All right, so Chris, I think you mentioned that there's like differing traits, or I think you call them like talent types. Could you dive into that and explain like why you, I guess, have that and what those talents do, if anything?
Yes, I can do like because again, we're trying not to give away the secret stuff because we've got a story arc kind of mapped out where you discover all these things and there's twists and turns and all of that. So without giving too much away, we have 50 different talents basically, and they're kind of grouped together in what we're calling classes. So you have sort of explorer talents, you have warrior talents, you have creator talents, you have services talents. So think like um, everything from a nurse to um, like a cleanup crew, like somebody. It's funny, the cleanup crew. The One of the characters in the narrative story that we're publishing, his name is Zinc. He's actually a cleanup crew guy, and so nobody in the world, not even these guys, know the description of what a cleanup crew guy does. But what he does is they're in the metaverse poking at pixels. Like so, their job is to repair all of these weird, like glitchy, pixely pieces throughout the metaverse. Um, Anyhow, so they've all got like jobs in the metaverse because the cyberbrokers are there, like I said, 24/7. And so you can imagine everybody from the sort of the I don't call them the government, but the people who make decisions, like they're the founders. It's a group of like some of the original OG cyber workers that were in there. Then you've got like I said, you've got services level stuff, you got explorer folks, you got um, the it's fun. One of the categories that we have in there is sort of a policing um, group, and the main character in the story, she's actually a human, but part of this policing group because she's so badass, right? But it's we've effectively tried to build a world out because we have 10,000 cyber, and so we can split up all kinds of cool jobs between all of them to do stuff in the metaverse. So there is everything from um, like assassins to like the ad buddy. Oh my gosh, he's so funny. Like it's I am so excited for the reveal for all of these things so that everybody can dig through and be like, what? What is this? And because they've all got fun descriptions, they've all got unique names. Like I was playing with the name generator uh, today to kind of like dedupe some stuff and clean things up. Um, like it's so cool. Like I am so excited for everybody to like start pulling all these things apart. Because they're gonna and there's different tiers based on rarity. Like there's all kinds of fun stuff that is they've got stats. Um, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm just a stat monkey. Um, but they have so many cool different ways that you can slice them from a character toy storytelling like game asset. Like there's all kinds of stuff, and because of that, it just opens up a giant world of possibilities, right? Like we're talking internally about doing all kinds of just badass stuff with with this pile of characters. Like yeah, I'm excited.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. Josie, why 10,001? I feel like 10,000 is like the norm. So why do you decide to add that extra?
Yeah. So in all of my crypto art NFTs, I've always done this thing where I always keep number one. And early on, it was, I mean, forever, it's just been sort of a way to not only keep a part of my own journey in the space, because all of the art that I create is about my journey in some way or the other, or the community's journey, or they just mean a lot to me. So I've always wanted to make sure that I keep one of the editions. And so that is always the way that I've done that. And it's also in a sort of way like investing in myself and my own work. Not that I would ever sell any of them, but it's just, I don't know, it's been both of those things for me. And so when we were making CyberBrokers, I knew that I wanted to keep one of them but I still wanted to make sure that we had 10,000 dispersed. So I said 10,001 and stuck with it from there. That was sort of the reason.
So with these assets, can I, like, what do I do with them? Is it like a game? Like, do I use them for some purpose? Or, and like, do I own the IP? Because I feel like that's like a big thing now. And you also mentioned that earlier. So like, yeah, tell me, like, what do I do with these things, and do I own the IP?
Sure. I'll let Chris talk about the IP because I know he gets excited about it. But as far as what are you buying when you're getting a cyberbroker, the base is you're getting a on-chain piece of badass art. That's what we're giving. That's what you're getting when you buy a cyberbroker, and you become a part of this universe that we're creating. But really, it is we don't want to. I'm never the kind of person where I want to like put something out there of what we're going to do before we do it. So we've held a lot of those things close to chest. But it is sort of the foundational piece to everything that we're building. And it's this art ecosystem that you become a part of by owning a cyberbroker.
And then for the IP rights. So like I said earlier, I was in the bowels of Disney for 8 years, and Disney is kind of like don't get me wrong, I love Disney, obviously. But Disney is the antithesis of copyleft, if you know what I mean, right? Like they are the driving force behind a lot of our copyright rules we have. And like everything just went into public domain before Disney, and now they keep extending the deadline, and so like that's why there's nothing been in the public domain since like whatever it is, 1923 or something like that, because that's when Disney was, right. That's when Mickey Mouse was started. Anyway, my whole point is that I am a giant fan of very permissive licenses for these kind of things. I personally believe that the reason projects like the Bored Ape Yacht Club and the Forgotten Runes Wizards, like the reasons a lot of these projects have gotten as much traction as they have and blown up as much as they have is because they have very permissive licenses that let whoever owns it do whatever they want with them, right? Like if you own a Bored Ape, you can go sell T-shirts on the side of the road. Just put up your shingle, and sell T-shirts with your Bored Ape, and like none of that money goes back to the guys, right? It's all yours, and you can do it. And they're like, sure, go for it, because they look at it as advertising. You are basically advertising the set, the community. Like you are out there evangelizing, and that's where the value is. It always flows back to the community. And so what we want to do is we want to replicate that kind of thing. So we want these super permissive licenses to where anybody can do all the cool things they want. And I mean, ideally, they would play within our world, right? Because then we can leverage some sort of positive sum synergies, right? Meaning, like the contest we just held, where people were writing cool stuff, and they're writing stuff that I could actually bring into the story if I wanted to, and be like, ooh, let's kind of branch it out this way. Because I know Josie said we don't want to tell anybody what we're going to do, because then we're going to keep things close to our chest. But I have been a D&D dungeon master for like 35 years, something like that. So one of the talents I have is sort of this story improv piece thing. So I can just like bend and twist stories based on incoming like decisions from my players, anybody really. So as we have this world, right, it would be so cool to kind of let the community guide a lot of these pieces. I mean, I like being the editor. So, like, no, ooh, yes, right? Like I'll find fun things and I get excited and I'm like, oh, but so building this world collaboratively with people really, really, really gets me excited. That's what she meant when I get excited to talk about the IP licensing rights stuff. So like we are super excited to have just everyone build the world of cyberbrokers with us, right? Because everybody who owns a cyberbroker is basically a co-owner in this thing. Um, and we just, yeah, like it's just it makes me so happy.
Awesome. All right. So can you tell me the details on like the sale? Like when is it happening? What day? How are you actually going about the sale? Is it just like a public sale where everyone goes and gas wars and load up your Ethereum and go, or what does that process look like?
One of the benefits of having taken so long to actually launch CyberBrokers is that we actually got to see a lot of the NFT sales that happened over the last 6 or 9 months or so. Chris and I would degen
We
out
are
together,
super
and like,
degens.
yeah, horribly so, horribly so. We would participate in a sale like 3 times a day
Oh
in the
yeah.
middle of last summer. It
Well,
was awful.
well, Ben and I can write
Um,
code, right? And so we've
yeah,
got and we're doing like all these crazy on the fly analysis. Oh man, you should see our tool set. So cool.
I, yeah,
Anyway,
we've been nefarious.
yeah.
Um, so
That being said,
that was that being said, um, in doing all of that, we got to experience what a lot of people were doing, and there were a lot of analogies to like when we first started Blockade in 2018. We would launch a project like almost every month, and every project would have some kind of fault in the rollout. So one thing that over the years I've gotten very, very particular about knowing when we start building something, when we ship something, how we ship it, um, how we monitor it. Like my bar for quality kept going up. But when we first started, things were very much like thrown together. Like sometimes something wouldn't work and I have to go like tweak something or restart the server every 2 hours or something. So it's funny because in the past half year, I'm seeing all of these people coming in and they're super enthusiastic. I mean, there's a lot of scammers in the space, so let's not think about them. But if we think about all the people who are coming in, who are earnest, who are building something that they love and they want to be a part of the community, and they're, like this is like their moment. This is their getting into crypto moment. This is their, um, like they're going to be here forever. Like this is where they got in, and they started by making mistakes, and that's where we all started. And we got the benefit of seeing how everybody was deploying. And we saw things that worked. We saw things that didn't work. We saw things that had a negative effect. Like there was there were a couple of launches where sometimes you could tell what token you were going to get, either on chain, there was the metadata reveal, or off chain, they leaked the metadata. Yes. And I think the biggest one was Meebits, if anybody remembers that. It was near the end of the sale. Somebody
mm,
found the IPFS hash was actually accidentally uploaded before the Meebit sale finished. So it was possible for someone to know what token ID correlated to which Meebit. So somebody wrote an MEV transaction that would fail if, I don't know if it was MEV, but it was a wrap. I'm sorry, if you can hear that, I live right across from a train tracks, and it's very active. So my apologies. Um, but somebody was able to wrap their transaction, say if it is,
if my
sorry,
EBIT is going to suck, then I'm just going to eject out of the transaction. Is basically it.
yeah, I'm just here. Yeah, exactly. So we saw all these things happen, and there's all these benefits to how we wanted to run the sale and how we wanted to deploy everything because we want people. So of the negative things that we've seen, um, revealing all of the tokens at once means that you have this market activity before, people are speculating on what they're going to look like, what they're getting. Basically, everybody is speculating. It's like you gave everybody, there was only 10,000 Pokemon card packs. Everybody had one, and people were betting like which one they could get, and they're bidding them up, and everyone bought it for $4, and now they're going for 40, and then everybody opens their packs, and like only 1% of them have a Charizard or something. Um, it has a negative effect on the ecosystem. So that's something we wanted to avoid. So every single part of the way that the cyberbroker sale and the allow list is structured has been to try to provide the best possible experience for the person who's on the other end, for the person who's buying it, who's believing in it, who wants to be a part of it. It is all for them. So we want people to um, pay a good, fair price. We want them to hold their cyberbroker and love it no matter what they get. Like we want everybody to be happy no matter what it is. And part of that is we kind of have to protect people from themselves. And that's where these bad market effects come into play. When you have a reveal that happens all at once, then you have the speculative behavior, you have all of this trading back and forth, and it creates an expectation that almost never can live up to expectation. So um, we're doing reveal almost instantaneously. We're doing it in a way that you cannot wrap the transaction and see exactly what it is you're getting. Um, and we are not doing a public sale because that causes gas wars and people wind up spending a ton of money in order to even participate. And in a public sale, even if you try to raise the price, your whales, no matter how you structure a public sale, the whales are always the one who are going to get the bulk of it. And the ethos from the very beginning, for 2 years now, CyberBrokers was all about let every single one of Josie's fans, for all of eternity, for since she started sharing her work, let every single one of them have an opportunity to be a part of her universe, to have her work, and let everybody like equally share in that. So the allow list is structured so the entire sale is allow listed. People from the public are still going to be able to participate. We're going to have a public allow list. Probably by the time this episode comes out, it might already be out there. And people who have already been a part of the community, the Discord, Twitter followers, the newsletter, the Discord and the newsletter in particular were all completely allow listed. We just told them you don't have to play a game. You are just in for being a fan, and that's it. Josie NFT holders, same thing. Everybody gets 3 NFTs from that, or they're allowed listed to buy 3 NFTs. So it's all about trying to make the most fair structure and the most transparent. And like there's no tiered pricing, for example, like everybody pays what they pay. That's it.
And it's you can
So
see it
it's
you can see it up and down the entire stack
mhm.
from our IP licensing permissive stuff to our we've got 50 talents and like the art is incredibly diverse across the entire set. Everything looks cool to like the way we're doing the sale to the like everyone will know that they can mint like the day of. Like you don't need to you won't need to there will be no questions. Like you will know if you have a cyber that you can mint or not. Like everything is to make this as pleasant of an experience and once you get your cyber broker, it like you will love your cyber like everything we do is focused on that.
And here's a random question: how do you avoid the website going down? I'm always curious about how people go from like a website probably not being that popular to suddenly having like all these hits. Because isn't that like a DDoS attack? So like, how do you guys avoid that problem?
One of the So we're still finalizing the details of how the site is going to work. A DDoS attack really affects a site that depends on a backend. There's a whole lot of reasons for that. So we're debating the best way to do it, maybe a very lightweight backend because there's only one specific thing that we really need a backend for.
Mhm.
Um, but when you keep it very light, when you keep it focused on the front end, you can handle a much higher load. That being said, I if the site goes down, it's because we're probably being attacked. If there's any normal load for the people who are coming in to participate in the sale and be a part of it, like that is a low to medium load for any website. So
Yeah, because keep in
I don't.
mind, everybody will know that they can mint. So there's no rush, there's no
Yep.
hurry. We're going to give, like, they will have time to come in and click on things and mint stuff. There's no reason that everybody needs to all hope they click the button just in time at 12:01 p.m. Like, I mean, we are, everything we're doing is trying to make this experience as nice as possible.
Awesome. All right. So what is the long-term vision here? Like, is this going to be a game? Is this like going to be a movie, like with all the lore? Like what is that? What are you guys thinking?
We're going to be everything. Yeah, all of it. I think we have a lot of things internally that we've talked about that we're really excited about. And from the very start, CyberBrokers was meant to basically be in lieu of like raising a round or something like that, for us to be able to take what we earn from CyberBrokers and put it right back into what we're building and into building sick stuff for the community and projects on top of it, and sort of have this be like the foundational piece. So we're going to continue with the lore. People know that we're going to be doing some puzzles that we're really excited for, that like really involve all of the community, even if you don't know how to do puzzles, because like that was really important to me. I was like, I want a dummy like me to be able to do it, like to be able to participate and get excited from it and even win something, even if I don't know how to do all these things. So we're sort of taking a lot of different things, and we're really, I mean, launch day for CyberBrokers is the start, right? That's like not the finish for us. That's the starting line of where we're going beyond that. So hopefully all of those things you listed, right? And I don't see us stopping, because we're not only building a universe for people who are in CyberBrokers and the things that we're releasing on top of it, but we're also having the community sort of like build it with us, like Chris was saying, adding in their contributions to the lore, having people sort of pick different routes we go. So this is just like, I just can't stress it enough that it's the starting point for where CyberBrokers is going to go.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, this was just like an absolute pleasure. I love learning about, what you guys are doing and building. It's super exciting. And you guys are just mega OGs, and anything you guys touch is awesome. But if people want to find out more about yourselves, find out more about CyberBrokers, where do they go? What do they do?
Our website is cyberbrokers.io. Check out the website and the Discord and the newsletter for sure. Those are, and the Twitter. Those are kind of all the places that we're at and putting out information on. And then, yeah, if you guys want to plug your personal Twitters, go for it, or whatever you want to.
I'll let Ben go first, because his is more complicated than
Because
mine.
I can say my name out loud and people will know exactly how to spell it.
Yeah.
All right, go to twitter.com/CYBOURGEOISIE.
That's what I
That's
what I was waiting for.
Is it cyber bourgeoisie or
Yeah, bourgeoisie. It's cybourgeoisie.
Cyber bourgeoisie?
No, cybourgeoisie. It's
Cybourgeoisie,
hyphenated
okay.
the whole thing. Yeah,
Okay, easy, nice.
That's amazing.
Chris?
exactly. Nice and simple, condensed.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yep,
knows how to spell
totally
it. Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me anywhere. Just Google Memnock with the 3 instead of the E, because, I created it back in 1996 or whatever, and it was cool. It was Leet Speak back then. So.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'm really looking forward to CyberBrokers.
Thanks for having
Thank you,
us.
Andrew.
Thanks so
Lots
much,
of
Andrew.
fun.